The story we are going to talk about today comes from China and Russia, with exciting elements of a military mutiny, full of plot twists and surprises. Yes, I know what you're thinking now. We're going to talk about the Wagner Group, the mercenary group that has always been hanging over Moscow like a sword. To the shock of the world, Wagner leader Prigozhin declared that he would overthrow the leadership of the Russian military, which was even colder than Moscow in winter. Interestingly, all of this ended after Prigozhin decided to avoid bloodshed. This is the shortest military mutiny I have ever seen, as short as my first love that ended with a blink of an eye. To be honest, I'm very curious about what kind of feeling this brings to the endless friendship and cooperation without boundaries relationship between China and Russia. You know, there is a kind of emotion in this world called, you are in me, and I am in you. But what is the impact of Wagner's defection on China? Is it a bit like our Belt and Road hitting a wall in Russia? Ha ha ha. However, there is a voice coming from former New York Times correspondent in China, Huang Anwei, saying that this incident may prompt Xi Jinping to reconsider attacking Taiwan. Should I thank Wagner for this? Because without them, I might never know that Xi Jinping would consider such a thing. It seems that I should thank this group even more. Because they showed us how China's leadership pays attention to the dynamics of their friends and how they handle this dramatic situation. It feels like watching a movie, but I have to say, the script is well written and the director is quite attentive. Should I give a shout out to Chinese netizens? They are comparing this event to the Aleutian Rebellion in 755 AD, and this association is like mixing Marxism and Confucianism together. I really want to know how they did it. However, the development of the situation is unimaginable. If enough soldiers followed the Wagner Group, Putin would die within a few months and Ukraine would win. I'm thinking, would this bring big problems to China and Xi Jinping, as some American lawyers have said? But I have to say, China, you have to work harder. If not, you may need to find a new friend, maybe consider Ukraine? Hello everyone, I'm your news anchor Yali, bringing you a one-stop service for China-related news every day. If you have any thoughts or ideas about these topics, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. We will read and reply to everyone's comments seriously. Chinese comedian Li Haoxi was banned and fined a huge amount of money for a joke comparing stray dogs and the People's Liberation Army because of his good style and ability to win battles. Chinese-American comedian Zhang Yuchen, who served in the United States Marine Corps, finds Li Haoxi's situation unbelievable because in the United States, where freedom of speech is protected, both soldiers and dogs can be comedy material, and the Marine Corps even uses a bulldog as a mascot. China continues to obstruct the investigation into the origins of COVID-19, targeting international scientific databases and journals, shaking the foundation of shared science. Ji Junhui, director of the Global Health Center at Oregon State University, said that Beijing ordered the deletion of data from international shared databases because further investigation would not be favorable to the Chinese government's narrative. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to spread in China, and experts predict that by the end of June, the number of infections in China could reach 65 million in a week. After more than 3 years since the outbreak, all hypotheses about the origin of COVID-19 still exist. Dr. Ji Junhui said that the only thing that is certain is that China concealed the fact of human-to-human transmission in the early stages of the pandemic, otherwise this global disaster could have been avoided. He talked about the possibility of the next pandemic originating from China and called for an international treaty to be developed to regulate dangerous biological research, similar to the way nuclear weapons testing is managed. Ji Junhui said that the reason why the COVID-19 pandemic became a global pandemic is that half of the responsibility lies with the World Health Organization, which did not consult with China early on to help other countries prepare. The other half of the responsibility lies with China, and the chances of China covering up another emerging infectious disease are very high. According to former and current U.S. officials, Hu Ben, a well-known scientist who was involved in a coronavirus project funded by the U.S. government, was one of 3 Chinese researchers who contracted an unknown illness at the beginning of the COVID-19 outbreak. The identity and role of these researchers are mentioned by those who support the hypothesis that COVID-19 originated from a laboratory leak, but their illness has not been finally confirmed. Chinese companies have reportedly shipped tens of thousands of kilograms of smokeless gunpowder to the Russian military factory, the Barnaul ammunition plant, enough to produce at least 80 million bullets. The report by the New York Times on the 23rd has raised new questions about Beijing's role in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. After U.S. Secretary of State Blinken's visit to Beijing, the U.S. and China have begun to flex their muscles again. On Saturday, the Taiwanese military detected 8 People's Liberation Army aircraft crossing the Taiwan Strait median line, while a U.S. aircraft carrier is expected to dock in Da Nang, Vietnam, on Sunday. BBC North America correspondent Anthony Zerker said that although the U.S. views this high-level contact with China as a success, they still acknowledge that there are larger and more difficult differences between the two countries. Taiwan is undoubtedly the biggest point of contention, enough to escalate from a war of words to a real conflict. U.S. President Biden called Xi Jinping a dictator, and the Chinese Foreign Ministry said Biden's remarks were absurd and irresponsible, and amounted to open political provocation. But Biden refused to retract his remarks and believed that they would not complicate the U.S.-China relationship. Biden said he still looks forward to meeting with Xi Jinping soon. How will this storm in U.S.-China relations be calmed? As U.S.-China relations continue to be strained, U.S.-India relations have entered a new era. Indian Prime Minister Modi concluded his visit to the U.S. on the 23rd, and the White House said the visit was very successful. The U.S. and India are committed to expanding and strengthening their comprehensive global strategic partnership, and have reached a series of agreements in various fields such as defense and high technology, including cooperation projects aimed at balancing China's influence. India recently announced that it will gift a domestically produced frigate to the Vietnamese Navy to assist Hanoi in strengthening its maritime defense capabilities. Experts say this move shows that India and Vietnam, which both face threats from China, are trying to deepen military cooperation through regional partnerships, but may find it difficult to counter Beijing's actions in the gray zone at sea. However, it is not expected that China will overreact to this in the near future. Is Beijing most worried about the escalating military cooperation between the U.S. and India? Ms. Sun Yun, co-director of the East Asia Program and director of the China Program at the Stimson Center, a U.S. think tank, said that the biggest reason Xi Jinping feels uncomfortable about the quadrilateral security dialogue, which includes India, is that it creates a regional situation where China is isolated. This creates great strategic pressure and constraints on China in the Asian region. The South Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that Blinken told South Korean Foreign Minister Chung that he had had frank, pragmatic, and constructive dialogue with China and hoped to explain the visit results in as much detail as possible. South Korea and the U.S. also called on Beijing to play a constructive role in the North Korean issue, which has angered Pyongyang. On the 23rd, the U.S. Department of Justice charged 4 Chinese chemical manufacturing companies and 8 individuals with criminal charges for illegally trafficking in chemical precursors used to manufacture fentanyl. One of the companies is accused of smuggling over 200 kilograms of chemical precursors into the United States, which were used to produce over 50 kilograms of fentanyl. The Attorney General said that this amount is enough to kill 25 million Americans. The case is the first of its kind. In response, the Chinese government criticized the U.S. for fishing for law enforcement and entrapping Chinese citizens, which violates the human rights of Chinese citizens and the interests of Chinese companies. Regarding Italy's possible announcement of its withdrawal from the Belt and Road Initiative within this year, the Chinese ambassador to Italy, Li Junhua, stated that the Belt and Road Initiative is a platform that demonstrates the level of political mutual trust and cooperation strategy between the two sides. If Italy withdraws from the initiative rashly, it will have a negative impact on Italy's image, credibility, and cooperation. In a recent interview, Jimmy Lai's son, Mark Lai, called on the British government to prioritize the Jimmy Lai case in its dealings with Hong Kong authorities, as everyone in the free world believes that the case is unacceptable. He said that if the UK does not firmly protect its citizens in a place where they have business dealings, what is the point of being a citizen of that country? Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam said in a previous interview that Article 23 of the Basic Law must be legislated by next year at the latest. The Secretary for Justice of Hong Kong, Teresa Cheng, who is preparing for the legislation of Article 23, said that it should be a good thing for the public, but there has been a lack of correct understanding of it for over 20 years, which has created negative perceptions and caused considerable obstacles to the legislation work, thus it has not been completed. After a 4-year hiatus, the Hong Kong International Dragon Boat Races were held on Saturday, June 24, in Victoria Harbour for 2 days. The Dragon Boat Invitation Race, co-organized by the Hong Kong Tourism Development Board and the Hong Kong-China Dragon Boat Association, attracted more than 4,000 dragon boat enthusiasts from over 160 teams from 10 countries and regions, including Australia, Thailand, and the Philippines, which sent their national teams to compete. According to a statement from Cathay Pacific Airways, the company's CX-880 flight was cancelled due to mechanical failure on the 24th, injuring 11 people. The flight from Hong Kong to Los Angeles had 17 crew members and 293 passengers, and local media videos showed some injured passengers being sent to local hospitals. One passenger said that the plane suddenly braked, causing panic among the passengers. Regarding the continued attention to the resignation of Taiwan's representative to Thailand, Stanley Cao, the Taiwan Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed this news and explained it in a press release on Saturday, June 24. The Me Too movement in Taiwan has spread from politics to academia, political commentary, the entertainment industry, and the judiciary. Some prominent figures have apologized quickly, while others are still in denial or trying to weather the storm. Taiwan still has a long way to go to achieve true gender equality. In March 2022, 28-year-old Taiwanese youth Yao Guanjun went to Ukraine at his own expense shortly after the outbreak of the Russo-Ukrainian War and became a volunteer soldier. According to Hong Kong media reports, the appointment of Lin Mao as the new president of the China Central Academy of Fine Arts has been met with dissatisfaction from several heavyweight professors at the school. The heads of the oil painting department, the architecture school, the art museum, and others jointly published an open letter stating that the selection process for the president was hasty and incomprehensible, and that the president should be a leader with both virtue and talent. The Ministry of Education responded by saying that Lin Mao has good political qualities and supports the leadership of the party. The high temperatures in Beijing, China's capital city, continue, with temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius for 3 consecutive days for the first time. According to the Beijing Daily, after the Beijing Observatory recorded 2 consecutive days above 40 degrees Celsius last Friday, June 23, the temperature at the Nanzhou Observatory, which represents Beijing's temperature, broke through 40 degrees Celsius again on Saturday afternoon, achieving the first ever 3 consecutive days of 40-degree heat in history. The results of the National College Entrance Examination in China have been released, and Zhang Shifeng, a famous exam prep teacher and internet celebrity, has advised students not to apply for journalism and communications majors, becoming the center of an online debate. Those who dislike Zhang Shifeng believe that he is only acting in his own self-interest, but some wish they had someone like Zhang Shifeng to knock some sense into them when they chose the wrong major. 17 or 18-year-old Chinese youth have to plan their future from the most practical and utilitarian perspective, which is inevitably lamentable. On Friday, June 23, the State Administration for Market Regulation of China held an emergency video conference on safety production in the market regulation field in Yinchuan City, demanding a clear understanding of the current complex and severe safety production situation, full learning from the lessons of accidents that have already occurred, an overall promotion of the implementation of the responsibility system to ensure that people can be found, things can be investigated, and responsibilities can be assigned in the event of an accident. China's naval vessel, the Qizhiguang, carrying 476 officers and soldiers, completed its Far Sea training and visit mission on Saturday, June 24, and returned to a military port in Dalian, Liaoning. The Beijing Municipal Education Commission issued a notice clarifying that schools may decide whether to suspend classes based on actual conditions during high-temperature weather. The Beijing Meteorological Observatory upgraded its heat warning to red on Friday morning, June 23, and it is expected that high temperatures will continue in Beijing from Friday to Sunday, June 25, with temperatures reaching as high as 37 to 40 degrees Celsius in most areas. That's today's news update. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. See you next time, and take care, everyone.